His Excellency Mr. Moritz Leuenberger, Vice President and Head of the Federal Department for the Environment, Transport, Energy and Communications of Switzerland. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I ask myself, is there anything new to say? Hasn't everything already been said? Hasn't it been said 1,000 times that now it is high time for action, not words? And yet, despite that, we are still speaking. Despite that, some are waiting to act until others take the first step. Many people around the world are asking themselves whether the politicians in Copenhagen are even willing to take decisions. Can the international community put a stop to global warming? Are developing countries and industrialized nations even capable of solidarity? Or are they only capable of talking and arguing about it? And the people ask themselves, are they really the United Nations, or is just a talking shop? Today here in Copenhagen we have to give them an answer. And we know that the hour of responsibility chimed long ago. It's no longer about symbolic activism, no longer about doting on polar bears at the zoo, about singing heart-wrenching songs, or about demonstrating. It is about more than that. It's about being or not being, and not in the profound sense of Hamlet's musings, but as an existential question. It's about habitats by the sea and the mountains. It's about food and water, war and peace, refugees and suffering. It's about life and death. It is far too late to be looking back and pointing the finger at one and another. We are all dependent on each other if we are to contain the effects of global warming so that mankind is not threatened in its existence. We have all long known that in order to achieve this, we must set binding reductions targets, long-term targets up until 2050, as well as short-term targets up to 2020. And we must clearly set out how we are going to achieve these goals. And we have to make available the necessary financial resources. Many have recognized the fact and have recently taken action. They have passed laws that they were previously not prepared to pass. They have declared their support for goals they previously rejected. They made first steps before others committed. They have recognized that scientific findings and have listened to reason. If we are clear in our minds as to what we must do to stop climate change, then we can actually save the world. Now is the time to find the right pace and rhythm for our climate policies. The new industrial revolution is irreversible, and we will succeed in accelerating its pace. That is why European countries, including Switzerland, will lead the way by reducing their emissions by 20%, and that's why we will go even further and reduce our emissions by up to 30%, because we know that other industrialized and emerging countries will commit to doing the same. That is why none of us will ultimately get around reducing worldwide emissions by last 50% by 2050. And that is why we, the industrialized nations, must reduce by at least 80%. And that is why emerging countries will also accept their responsibility and to do their part. And that's why we will also participate in founding on behalf of the poorest countries. In Nairobi in 2006, Switzerland proposed a worldwide CO2 levy based on the polluter pays principle in order to finance the damage caused by climate change. And this proposal is still on the table and is, in our view, is still the fairest solution. But it also requires a near-term financial commitment, and Switzerland is prepared to contribute its part. The age of innocence is over. The hour of responsibility has come, and I call upon all of us to recognize this responsibility. We can put a stop to global warming because we have to put a stop to it. We can help to protect one another from the very real damage caused by global warming and help each other to overcome it. Industrialized nations and developing nations countries can act in solidarity because we have to proceed in solidarity. We have no other choice. Copenhagen can be a success because it has to be a success.